Media, to the viewing public, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today on February the 25th, 2025, for yet another IDA presser. We are coming to you from the IDA's head office in Wilson Road, Scarborough. I am Kate Trotman, and today I am joined by Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus, the political leader of the IDA. It is the carnival season, and now the space is literally burning up with carnival activities. And Tobago artists and performers have showcased their prowess, their cultural mastery, from the Panorama Finals, where we saw Tobago Cats and Jammers emerging as the winners of the conventional medium band category, and our own Jaheim vs. Thomas moving in from a wild card entrant to second place in the Ultimate Soca Champion. Tobago is really showcasing itself in this season. To these performers, to these winners, to these champions, we salute you and we celebrate your success. But even in the midst of these success that we are experiencing, there are still sobering issues, very sobering issues that needs to be addressed. Issues surrounding whether the new airport is poised as a serious security risk. Issues on whether the THA is deliberately moving to destroy National Carnival here in Tobago, and whether the deaths that we have been experiencing in the health sector goes beyond the non-certification of doctors. But let me start us off by addressing the new airport concerns. And I want to start off by saying that the people of Tobago deserve more than the infrastructure of a new airport. We deserve more than just the physical terminal building and the accompanying tarmac runway that goes with it. Tobago deserves an airport that integrates its economy, that safeguards its community, and that respects the voices of its people. First, let us examine the traffic and security issues concerning this new airport. The IDA joins with many Tobagonians who have concerns that the airport is so closely located to residential areas in the community. And we are concerned as to whether it is poised for significant security challenges to the operation of the airport, as well as safety concerns for our residents. With homes that are literally a stone's throw away from the airport, so much so that children who are playing cricket in the nearby yards can whoop a ball for 4 or 6 and it ends up in the compound of the airport. We need to ask ourselves this serious question. With an international airport, are we truly meeting international standards for security and safety? Also, if we are to observe quite carefully, the new terminal building is poised and positioned precariously close to the public road, with apparently minimal structural buffer from the surrounding environment. In fact, if you were to look closely, part of the terminal building is so close to the road that the roof appears to be hanging over the sidewalk. International regulations demand rigorous safeguarding of airport parameters, especially against potential threats, whether these threats are intentional or accidental. We, like many other Tobagonians, have waited and have heard no comments, nothing at all, as relates to these alarming security issues? Has no one recognized that we are flirting with danger? And has no one seen it fit to address these issues? I am saying that the government now has to explain to us how it plans to mitigate these risks. The risk of unauthorized access from the public road into the airport, the risk that potential objects like a cricket ball emanating from the nearby home areas could disrupt the operations of the airport. And will these disruptions result in a shutdown of airport operations? How does this align with civil aviation standards? And again, this raises an inevitable question to us. Will the government force more land acquisition to solve these issues? The idea is demanding clarity as to whether further property acquisition is necessary. The government has to come clean with the people of Tobago, because Tobago deserves honesty and it deserves transparency about the future implications of this project, particularly those whose homes and businesses may be impacted. But I want you to note that the THA itself is not absolved from its share of culpability, especially where the management of traffic flow is concerned. The access to the new airport along the Tobago local road, which is a very narrow road, is likely to pose significant safety and logistical concerns with increased traffic to and from the airport. Listen, I can just picture the traffic nightmare that is waiting to happen. Increased traffic congestion and the burdensome maneuvering during emergency situations. What is the plan for this proverbial highway to nowhere that was built by the THA? How is it to be integrated into the road network so that it creates no bottlenecks to traffic flow? The narrow access road to a potentially high traffic and high busy area is not only an inconvenience to daily operations, but it can also, I dare say, undermine Tobago's effort to position itself as a world-class tourism destination. The lack of communication that we have seen between the Chief Secretary and the Prime Minister has Tobago at a literal standstill on this issue. And with the airport opening shortly, what meetings are being conducted between the THA and the central government to determine what is the best traffic pattern for the entrance and exit into and out of the airport? Both the THA and the central government are behind the curve on this issue. And we are finding ourselves in a reactionary mood where this is concerned. Tobago, we must arrive at a position where we can ensure that the route to an international airport meets the standard demanded by a modern international airport. Again, I ask the question, would that involve the widening or redesigning of the Tobago local road, this critical route? And is that going to impact the residents and the business in the area negatively? Will more properties have to be acquired? And will the people of Tobago be subject to yet another bundling fiasco where this is concerned? We remember how the first fiasco of land acquisition went. I am sure we don't want to experience that again. But beyond this concern, beyond the security and safety concerns that threaten further land acquisition that would disrupt both lives and livelihoods of individuals within nearby community, the new airport also raises the issue of economic exclusion of Tobago businesses from opportunities of commerce the airport can generate. Recently, we saw flyers advertising calls for RFP. Calls for RFP for food and beverage spaces, which would cover grab-and-go enterprises, quick service restaurants, casual dining restaurants. We also saw RFPs for small business spaces for souvenirs, confectionery, art and craft, and local treats and snacks ranging from our famous bene balls, tulum, sugar cake, and preserved fruits. But you know what I didn't see? Or what I didn't hear? I don't know if there were any RFPs that were issued for the duty-free shopping spaces. What was the process used if they were? And if it wasn't issued, is these requests for proposal for duty-free spaces wasn't issued, I have to ask, what process will be used to determine who gets spaces for duty-free operations? And are any Tobago businesses likely to get any of these duty-free spaces? Of serious concern to us at the IDA is the THA's neglect of its role in securing businesses, or I should say, in securing that Tobago businesses have guaranteed spaces to operate in this new airport terminal. Wasn't any effort made to negotiate with Airports Authority or the central government or whichever appropriate body to ensure that a percentage of space was guaranteed for Tobago business? This failure is likely to result in Tobago vendors being left out completely of airport concerns. So can you imagine our local vendors, our potential duty-free operators not having or not knowing whether at all they'd be able to compete to get access to business opportunities in the very airport that is going to be operating in their own backyard? Listen, Tobago, our businesses must be actively included in the economic activity that this airport can generate. Did the THA not appreciate the necessity to have businesses, Tobago businesses, equitably represented in the airport commerce landscape? And so much so that the Tobago economy could positively benefit from these economic activities and grow as a result. Was there no foresight to ensure that Tobago is not just a mere observer of economic activity, but is an active participant in the economic activity that is taking place right, I wouldn't even say in its back door now, right in its front yard? That is why it was paramount for the THA to be proactive and to negotiate for guaranteed spots for Tobago businesses. After these guaranteed spots were acquired, then RFPs could be sent out, specifically targeting Tobago business, and therefore guaranteeing that Tobago can play a meaningful part in the economic opportunity that this airport can generate. I therefore want to reiterate that Tobago businesses must not be a picturesque backdrop to the economic development that is going to be taking place in our own space. And that is why the IDA is issuing a call to action for both the THA and central government to ensure that Tobago is not sidelined in its own economic development. Thus, it is necessary for the Chief Secretary to establish a unit that focuses on preparing businesses, Tobago businesses, for airport opportunities. Deliberate steps must be taken to assist businesses to capitalize on opportunities that will be presented. It is also our understanding that the rents for these airport spaces will be paid for in a foreign currency, US currency that is. And if this is indeed the case, there must be some option for specialized financing so that these Tobago business entities can meet the obligation of paying for their rents in these foreign currency. And we already know that Forex is a challenging situation on the national landscape at this point in time. It is also necessary for the THA, and not just the THA, but the Tobago elected parliamentary representatives to demand guaranteed commercial spaces for local Tobago businesses within the new airport landscape. You know, for the general elections, people normally want to know what are the roles and responsibility of our parliamentary representatives. I want to tell you that it is issues like this that impacts on Tobago's potential to grow, its economy to thrive, that our representatives need to be having their voices heard so that we know why we would have sent them down there to focus on Tobago issues. But apparently, our representative seems to be very quiet on these issues. The new A&R Robinson Airport should be a source of pride, a source of progress for Tobago. And it must not only just meet the international standards where it concerns security and safety, it must also serve as a gateway to prosperity for Tobago. Therefore, I am saying to us, it demands urgent attention to the issues that I have just highlighted. We cannot let poor planning, lack of foresight, and a reactionary stance to development in Tobago ruin any opportunity for us to take charge of developing and growing our economy. And therefore, as the ID, we issue that clarion call to the central government, to our THA representatives, and to our parliamentary representatives to start championing Tobago's for full economic development. I thank you, and I open the floor to any questions you may have. Okay. If there are no questions, I would like to take this opportunity to hand us over to Dr. Denise Soyafat-Angus, who will address the other issues of our national carnival here in Tobago, as well as the deaths within the health sector. Dr. Angus.
Pleasant good afternoon to everyone, and let me say thank you to Ms. Trotman for that quite in-depth analysis of the challenges that we are foreseeing with the current airport situation. And I hope people are taking note. I know that the administration usually looks at our press conferences, and I hope they will take note of what they're supposed to be doing on behalf of the people of Tobago. You know, we are in the midst of Carnival, and we can't just stand by about it. And so I want to begin, though, on a positive note by congratulating all of our cultural warriors. And I have to call them cultural warriors because they're fighting for their existence. Not just fighting in Trinidad, but they're fighting in Tobago, even in Tobago, for their own existence. So I want to congratulate our cultural warriors. And they are the heartbeat of our island's artistic excellence. They have once again placed Tobago squarely on the map in this Carnival 2025 season, from Pan to Calypso to Soca. And we need to celebrate them because the trials and tribulations that they came through to reach where they are, my goodness, no wonder they are diamonds. So we begin with our Pan sides. East side, Tobago East side, Cats and Jammers, Carib Dixieland, and every other Tobago Pan side that fought their way into the semi-finals and the finals, we salute you. The hard work, discipline, and dedication you poured into this season reflect the resilience and strength of our people. To our arrangers, Kirsch Ramsey, O.J. Richards, Kashawn Julian, Gerard Balfour, who's dealing with the high school students, and Devon Stewart, we see you. We see you. Even if the administration doesn't, we see you. Many of you are now arranging, not just in Tobago, but in Trinidad's top arena, proving yet again that Tobago talent is world class. In the field of soca, we celebrate Jermaine Cox, Juby, for making it to the semi-finals, and Jaime Verse Thomas for overcoming, all of those hurdles to move from a wild card to second place in the ultimate soca monarch. A testament to the unstoppable power of talent, perseverance, and faith. When God is for you, no man can stop you. Hats off to the Roxborough community for that celebration event to welcome him home. It was very exciting. I had the privilege to be there, and let me tell you, they were so excited for one of their own, for that celebration. And it really takes a village to raise a child, and everybody is proud of this. To our 6 Calypso warriors who made it to Big Yard in Skinner Park, Tobago Choki, Jalice Orr, Nicole Thomas Clark, Caston Cupid, Sharon Phillips, and especially Rosalind Reed, who has now made it into the finals. That means that Tobago will be in the Dimanche Gras show. You've all made us proud. We applaud you for your talent and commitment to the art form. And let us not forget the Calypso tents and the panyards, those sacred spaces where music, lyrics, and storytelling are nurtured. I had the opportunity to visit panyards with a few members of my team, and even the Calypso tents. And let me tell you, see, this year, I don't know what about this year, but they were exceptional. I would not have wanted to be a judge in any one of those competitions, Calypso or Pan this year. Tobago has reached a point where competition is not just about performance, it is about dominance. But here's the reality. Carnival in Tobago, especially National Carnival in Tobago, is under siege. And this administration does not understand that culture is more than just entertainment. It is an industry. It is a viable industry that can be utilized in Tobago to diversify ourselves. It is an industry that, when properly invested in, can revolutionize our economy, provide sustainable employment, and elevate Tobago to the new heights on the international stage. But instead of structured investment from this THA administration, we see lip service, political favoritism, and neglect. Let's be real. It takes money for these artists, pansides, and performers to go down to Trinidad and compete at the highest levels. To compete adequately in semi-finals, it would take upwards of $10,000 for a Tobago performer to go to Trinidad and even have a chance at getting into a finals. And that's being conservative. To compete in a semi-finals, you need to add about another $20,000 to take it up a notch for the real competition and fight where it occurs. And that is conservative. All those nice props you saw on stage for the Calypsonians and for verse were not free. It costs money. It costs money. All the energy we see coming from the audience, you know, people had to go down and support their own. All that takes money. So the THA should be ensuring that those who qualify get full financial backings, not just throwing money at those who going beg the hardest. They shouldn't even have to beg. It should be an understanding. As soon as you qualify for semifinals, this is what we're going to give you, because we know you need some resources to help you perform at your best. You reach finals, we're going to give you even more so that we ensure that you could perform at your best. Because when you do that, it puts Tobago on the map. It cannot be that Tobago's finest are breaking their backs in Trinidad to represent this island and still coming back home broke and broken and expected to smile for a picture moment when not a penny run yet. That is what you call madness. But what is the Assembly currently doing instead? Let's see. 9.38 million for Bourgeois and Friends. Yeah? 20 million for some hospital project. Another single cent to ensure Calypsonians in the tents get paid for their work, or even those who made it to Trinidad to represent us. Oh, and furthermore, they invested in the THA inter-department competition where, in the THA inter-department competition, you see, I totally get lost in it, because I cannot believe what it has come to, the level of smut and slackness that we were experiencing that night. But we have to commend the judges that those who won did not descend to those levels. So maybe there's a glimmer of hope. But the THA has to reconsider its priorities and how do you stage a show that is really of a standard that not just, adults can sit down and watch, but even young children who now, looking at the art form to get involved, because that's what you want. And calypsos are supposed to be sending a message in a very tasteful way. I think that some of them lost it with that. And so we also have to question that all of these artists we now see being released in advertisement, McKnight and whoever, alongside Buju, we all know that they can't release them unless they pay some booking money. So how come you have money to pay foreign artists for booking them, and you don't have no money for the local Tobago artists in the middle of Carnival yet? You know, what really is that about? We know Carnival occurs every year. Why is it an issue to give your commitment and pay the people up front? This is our own people. They're spending the money right here. We're looking at a Tobago economy that continues to decline. How else do you stop it? If you don't understand, you have to invest in spending your money with your people, and they will spend it on the island, spin it around a couple of times before it goes elsewhere. But meanwhile, the real warriors of culture, and we have to look at them, are the, Lady IB and her tent, Bacchanal, Calypso tent, Magnificent Glow, the Masters Calypso tents. They are out there singing their hearts out without even a promise yet of a penny. They're singing their hearts out around the community, entertaining communities with the Calypso art form. In fact, if they were not out there now, you never think Carnival happening in Tobago this year. So we really want to thank them for really stepping out still and doing it out of the goodness of their heart. Because people would not realize that even if THA give them some money, a lot of times that money that is given to them cannot even cover properly for them to write the song, to go into studio and get the song on tracks. All of that costs money. And so a lot of them are really doing it out of the goodness of their heart, but they can't continue to do that in this go-over season. We have to start paying some more attention and appreciation and credit to those who are in the Carnival arena and a potential industry that we have. Let's not even talk about the fact that we are on the eve of Carnival, right? Next week, Monday and Tuesday. And up to now, you can't hear about the stipends for the mass fraternity, nor even the structure for the Carnival in terms of the price structure, what is being paid out. For people to know, okay, well, maybe I will enter here, I will enter there, I might get something. None of that. All you're hearing is silence, silence, silence. But we're hearing about who come in for Rhythm and Soul, or whatever they're calling it, in April. It's time we start minding our own business. And with all of that, we have to say the writing is on the wall in capital letters. This administration does not care about the National Carnival in Tobago. They don't understand it, they don't value it, and they don't know how to make it work. They are focused on an October Carnival in Tobago. But that too will never be truly successful in becoming an economic driver for the Tobago economy if the very foundation of our national carnival art form is being neglected. Heads on Beds is a very limited way of looking at the potential of Carnival that October has to offer. The only way for Tobago's October Carnival to benefit Tobagonians is for Tobagonians to first thrive on the national stage and promoting and showcasing them for the October Carnival space. And that requires investment. That requires vision. That requires leadership. And yet, and so that is where we are not seeing any of those in this current THA administration. Up to now, not a cent for the tents that birth Calypsonians and soca warriors, no enhanced structure funding for our pan sites, no thought out process for converting our talent into an industry. This is just not just incompetence, but consider it a deliberate neglect. And so the IDA is proposing real solutions. One that builds on our strengths as a, Tobago talented community. One that secures our cultural legacy and turns the carnival into an economic powerhouse in Tobago. We call it the International Carnival Academy of Music and the Arts located in Tobago. A world-class institution where the best minds in pan, soca, calypso music production train the next generation. You can't tell me that we are having people like Kirsch Ramsey, who is a 3-time winner for the arranger along for Cats and Jammers in the whole of the national pan, but all we're going to do is sit and let him wait for the next carnival? No, we have to paint a bigger vision for them. We have, Kirsch Ramsey, Devon Stewart, O.J. Richards, Anthony Moore, who now has a small music, school there. We need to pull them together and form this international academy, a space to also teach about the business of carnival, marketing, promotions, production, pan making, pan tuning, all aspects of mass making, all aspects of calypso writing and to performance, competition strategy, so that Tobagonians not only perform but profit. The vision is clear, We have talent, we have the expertise, we have the foundation. What we don't have is a THA with the foresight and competence to make it happen. But don't worry, Tobago will soon come. But, in the midst of that, we have to ask ourselves, do we continue to go begging for scraps? Or do we demand and build what is ours so that we can become self-sustaining towards our economy and it can happen? Do we allow our artists to struggle? Or do we position them for global success? Do we settle for lip service? Or do we elect leaders who will invest in our cultural legacy, who understand the value of our cultural legacy and know how to convert it into profits and prosperity for all on this island and by extension the country? And before I end my discussion on the carnival arena, I must, on my own behalf and on behalf of the Innovative Democratic Alliance, extend deepest condolences to our friend Sherwin Winchester on his loss of both parents within a day of each other, perhaps even hours of each other. And yet to show his resilience to go out there and continue performing as if nothing had happened. But we know the good Tobago upbringing he had, that his parents would have been telling him, you have to finish what you start, just as my mother had told me 3 years ago during the election. And so I really say to Sherwin, you are a pillar of strength that we all look up to during this time. And may God continue to strengthen you during this period of your grief, and yet you have to continue going out there and meeting your commitments to perform. May your parents, may their souls rest in eternal peace. Thank you. You know, it's more in the mortar than the pestle, like they say, and the pestle being uncertified doctors in Tobago. It's way bigger than that. And you can't focus on the pin in the haystack and not consider the whole haystack may be about to burn down. Because Tobago's healthcare sector is in crisis. We have witnessed a disturbing pattern of perceived unavoidable deaths. We say perceived because we aren't hearing any investigations across the board. Only families home crying, bawling down the place because they didn't expect it. Simple procedures, and instead of going to visit them in the hospital, you're going to the morgue. And so there's been a disturbing pattern of perceived avoidable deaths, medical incompetence, and administrative negligence, all under the watch of the Tobago House of Assembly's Division of Health, Wellness, and Social Protection. Over the past year alone, in addition to many members of the public, there have been members of staff at the TRHA who have died under questionable circumstances. Most recently, about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Cases that should have been should have triggered a thorough, independent investigation. Instead, what we have seen is silence, deflection, and complete absence of accountability. This is absolutely unacceptable. And the idea is demanding action, transparency, and reform. The people of Tobago deserve better. The families of the staff who gave their all to that institution deserve better. Tobago's health sector is being operated without proper oversight, governance, or even regulation. You know, in our view, the Division on Health has abandoned its duty, leaving the TRHA to function like a runaway horse. No reins, no controls, no consequences for failure. We must be clear. Every premature or unexpected death at the hospital should be fully investigated, not as a blame game, but to prevent further loss of life and to improve the quality of care. This is what international standards demand. If we are heading into medical tourism, which is another opportunity for us to diversify the economy in Tobago, these are the standards of care we must hold ourselves accountable to. If proper investigations were done, they would expose the truth of the dysfunction plaguing our healthcare system today. Investigations would reveal the current incinerator that is still not functional. The incinerator is sitting in some box somewhere, some container somewhere, has not been operationalized. You send set of people to train abroad, right? Bring down this customized incinerator for us, close to a year or more. The incinerator ready to run out of its, what do you call that? its warranty, and we still have not touched it to operationalize it. There is still no space designated to build something to put this incinerator that is sitting in a container. Okay? And it's not done. The Secretary of Health has to tell us why this has not been activated. Investigations would reveal the state of the ambulance service. Where are those vehicles now? You say you buy a whole lot of vehicles, new ambulances, they came in. But these vehicles, and I refuse to call them ambulances, these vehicles have had to have so many modifications in Trinidad that they can't reach Tobago yet. But the bigger question is, were these vehicles already licensed as ambulances in Trinidad? And therefore, should they have been licensed as ambulances even before all of these modifications would have occurred? And therefore, who is in charge of licensing these ambulances, and why did they make it through in a condition that you really can't equate them to be ambulances? These are all questions inquiring minds want to know. If investigations would have done, they would have revealed the adequacy or the inadequacy of the hospital's laundry facilities, where you have drums of sheets in in water soaking for Lord knows now how long, because you don't have enough of the equipment working to actually wash the sheets. This is serious infection control that we're dealing with. Yeah? Zero sheets. Families have to bring in sheets and blankets to the hospital because they're sitting in buckets waiting to be cleaned, and they cannot be cleaned efficiently because machines are broken, not working properly, staff being frustrated because they cannot do their job properly, but they're getting cussed. Instead of taking that 20 million and putting it on that resort, why didn't they put the 20 million to update the laundry facilities that is supposed to take care of the current hospital and in Signal Hill and the one in Roxborough? Yeah? You can't compromise patient safety along those lines. Investigation would reveal the absence, the availability of critical medical equipment and essential drugs, whether for theatre, whether for the hospital or outpatient. The hospital formulary, 0 seems to be the new name of the drug on the formulary. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Patients have to end up going outside and spending money, additional money. I say additional money to go in the pharmacy and buy their drugs. And I say additional money because people feel healthcare in this community or in this country is free. Healthcare is not free. You are paying your proper health surcharge. If you are working, you're paying your proper health surcharge to have a facility that is working for you, and a promise of certain drugs that will be there for you when you become a certain age or you fall into a certain category of illness, the chronic non-communicable chronic diseases category, your diabetes, your high blood pressure, your cholesterol. People cannot even get the basics to take care of their health in that regard. They have to go and find extra money to buy it outside. Tell me where the pensioner are finding that extra money to buy, and they're going to ration what they're taking, And when they ration what they're taking and they go back to the doctor want to know why the pressure so high still, why the diabetes out of control still, why the cholesterol so high. Why? Because they don't have the money to go and buy the extras. And then where do they end up? They end up in the operating theater removing a limb or two and continuing to go down that road. We can't continue in that way. And then, of course, you're going to put in there the competence of the medical staff to meet professional standards. And I don't think of a medical institution, and none of us should think of a medical institution as just doctors. A medical institution is made up of a wide array of personnel who are trained and certified or supposed to be certified in the healthcare arena. Okay? So where are we with those standards? The adequacy of housing, of hospital staffing, even wardsmen for transporting people to get testing and treatment. One patient told me that, some member of our family told me the other day that the patient couldn't get their test because they didn't have enough wardsmen, wards personnel working that day to transport the patient to get an important test. Nah, you can't tell me that. Right? And the efficiency or lack thereof of the emergency room. People waiting too long in the emergency room. People are having evolving strokes in the emergency room. They come in and 6 hours later, that is when they're being seen, where the stroke progressed now to the point that they can't help themselves. Come on. We have to begin looking at all the processes. And it's only when you begin to investigate the challenges we have going on that you're able to say, okay, well, this is where we fell short. We need to deal with this. We need to deal with that. But currently, the hospital is running like a rudderless ship. The whole of the healthcare. We won't even talk about the capacity of dialysis services, because whilst there seems to be okay in the outpatient, those at the hospital or that at the hospital seems to be absent. These are not minor oversights. These are life and death issues that must be addressed immediately. And I mean, there's a whole slew of other things that an investigation will pull up. I mean, I will be here until tomorrow telling you about the various parts of the health sector that are not functioning to support adequate patient care. It is bigger than just certification of doctors. But let me tell you what one of the challenges we have is that there is no independent oversight, no external reviews, no transparency about the internal investigations. I mean, we spoke about a young lady who died, in childbirth. We haven't heard. They say they're investigating it. What were the results of those investigations? And I tell you, years ago, when I was the chairman of the Tobago Regional Health Authority and we had 5 neonatal deaths on our hands, we not only had an independent investigation team that looked at all aspects of our healthcare that could have contributed to it, yeah? But in addition, we came out to the public and we said, this is what we found, and this is what we are putting in place to make sure we are not in this situation again. We're not hearing anything. Things are just being swept underneath the carpet. We don't even know if investigations were done. If investigations were done, what were the outcomes? Was anything put in place to lift the standards of care? That is important, and it's time that we as Tobagonians demand accountability from those we put there in leadership to help us live better quality of lives on this island. And therefore, the most recent death has to be an independent investigation. Yes, it has to be an independent investigation. And if the Secretary of the Health does not demand it, we are suggesting that the Minister of Health and the CMOH should demand or should put together an investigation into it. But we will come to that as to why I would say something like that. We will come to that just now. Okay? So, there has to be a rigorous review process if we have to learn from what happened to be able to improve our healthcare situation. Else every Monday morning we burying somebody and we crying and nothing to be fixed. Okay? But we need to address one of the key issues that we have, which is the legislative gap. All right? The Chief Medical Officer in Trinidad plays a critical role in overseeing the healthcare regulations at the primary, secondary care, tertiary, and also public health. He has the legal framework to do it for both Trinidad and Tobago. The Division of Health has had devolution of powers without the proper oversight in place to oversee all of those areas. Yes, there is a CMOH, a County Medical Officer of Health, but that CMOH only deals with public health issues on the island and not providing the oversight important to advise both the Secretary and the Administrator on the running of the health care. But let's be clear, the CMO does not license or discipline doctors. That is the Medical Board of Trinidad and Tobago who would license a doctor, put out a listing to all healthcare institutions as to whether a doctor was licensed and in what category they have been licensed, whether they are in specialist or general. And so it's up to the healthcare institution to determine how they use that information. If a doctor is misbehaving in any way in his capacity as a medical doctor, the medical board can discipline the doctor. However, the medical board cannot police a hospital as to who they hire or do not hire. That comes at the level of the Chief Medical Officer. In Trinidad, the Chief Medical Officer would pick up the phone and or write to an RHA and say, this is not acceptable, you cannot do that, go and fix it. However, where Tobago is concerned, they say Tobago responsible for healthcare, they're on their own, but Tobago does not have a Chief Medical Officer who can instruct because he has the legal backings to oversight the whole of the health sector. So you understand the challenges we have, eh? So the CMO, like I said, is legally empowered to provide oversight, to instruct, to provide guidance, and even to instruct, if it comes to that, at the level of the regional health authorities. But because the TRHA is in Tobago, they say, well, let Tobago see about itself. However, the Tobago House of Assembly, through the Division of Health, has not established an equivalent authority like the Ministry of Health. So they really don't have the technical expertise of a medical doctor who has the legal backing to oversight, guide, and instruct what happens in the TRHA. So this is an administrative failure and also a legislative failure. But there are opportunities there. So we need a Chief Tobago Medical Officer, a CTMO, or equivalent, with a unit to oversight the hospital sector, especially at this time. And it ensures all hospital staff meet competency standards, are properly trained, and in cases of a situation like what we have, they can trigger an investigation of the kind that we need. They are supposed to regulate the availability of medical equipment and drugs, advise the secretary, yes, in terms of the budgeting, what is needed to prevent shortages that put patients at risk, and monitor critical hospital services, including the emergency response, dialysis, and patient transportation. Provide technical guidance to the Secretary of Health and also the administrator, ensuring decisions are based on medical expertise and not political convenience. To establish a monitoring and evaluation department responsible for continuous monitoring of the health sector response, which occurs at the primary, the secondary, the tertiary, and public health. This is not just a recommendation, this is a necessity. And so I want to advise the secretary that one of the most key motions that she can move that would establish her legacy is to move a motion in the Tobago House of Assembly legislature to recommend amendments to the Public Health Act granting Tobago legal authority to establish a CTMO with regulatory powers in Tobago. Yes, you can have them ultimately respond to the CMO in Trinidad at such times when it is a national emergency, but in order to pull the Tobago health sector into some level of standards of care, that is absolutely needed. Okay? It would mean that this would be debated in the Tobago legislature and then forwarded to Parliament for them to take to the forwarded to the Cabinet for them to take to Parliament. Well, we all know how that is going to go, but at least it would have been initiated. Okay? And so, in addition to that, in order for us to move into the realm of medical tourism, we have to consider having ourselves be internationally accredited as an institution. Just as how you have education systems accredited, it's time that our hospital system is accredited. And if we move into that phase, then all standards of care across the board will have to be lifted in order to get accreditation. It is a good thing. It is time for us to pursue that. The refusal to address some of these things, it has already cost us lives, and if we don't do this now, it will continue to cost us more lives that could have been avoided. Okay? So let us, not sit here and do nothing. There's a lot that can be done. There's a lot to be learned, and we must not be afraid of the investigations that must occur as routine. If we're doing it as routine, standards of care will be lifted and we will have much less of those incidents that we have to deal with in the health sector. And so as a people, we must demand that they launch an independent investigation. You know, having the family sue, yes, but there must be an independent investigation launched so we can learn from those related deaths, and they must disclose the information to the public. We need to, like I said, establish the Tobago Oversight Committee, the CTMO, and introduce the legislative reforms, right? This is not about politics. It is about saving lives. Too many have been lost. And so we will continue, the ID will continue to push this administration and any other administration for accountability. We will continue to demand justice and to fight for the healthcare sector that serves the people of Tobago and should be serving them and not endangering their lives. Time for excuses over. Time for action is now. Time for accountability is now. Call for the independent investigation. Secretary of Health, until you get a CTMO, it's up to you, and you have the power, the authority, and the responsibility to call for an investigation at this time. We are aware that there is no board, but you have created an ad hoc committee to advise you in the absence of a board with all those other board members who were there before. I'm saying to you that does not work. It is time you take up your responsibilities as the Secretary of Health and call for an independent investigation into the most recent death. Thank you. Questions? Okay, so let me take this opportunity to thank everyone who has been tuning in to us. It's becoming an exciting time in the Tobago space. Yes, Carnival is on the horizon. I truly hope that you all have a very safe and enjoyable Carnival season. And so we will be monitoring it, and we will get back to you after the Carnival in terms of our assessment and discussing other pertinent issues related to Tobago. Thank you.